welcome to the 9642 podcast. This is your host, Mr. NumberNine.
And this is The Fool.
Your 96 best place to listen to...
For 10 years.
Yes, for our 10th season of our mostly up-to-date...
And unqualified. And unrequested.
Ramblings of the various issues in the world of sport.
Or something like that.
Hello, everybody. We are here on a Tuesday, New Zealand time, Monday, American time, almost 9 p.m., the day after the Super Bowl.
Woo!
And what an incredible finish we had to that game.
Yeah.
Obviously, first half really was kind of uneventful. The offenses just couldn't get underway, and then it looked like the Kansas City Chiefs were about to get kind of niggle their way into a win in the third quarter when the San Francisco 49ers came back to tie the game, and then it went to overtime, and there was only going to be one result.
Yeah.
So Patrick Mahomes is 3-1 in the Super Bowl. He's only ever lost to Tom Brady.
Yeah.
So, no shame in that.
Exactly.
The only player to have consistently beaten Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs is Tom. So,
Yeah. That says a lot, really. Like, probably the best ever is the only one to beat him on a consistent basis, you say.
But he's already ahead of touchdown Tom. Tom Brady was 29 when he won his third Super Bowl, and Patrick Mahomes is 28. So he's a year ahead if he wants to catch up to Tom. But Brady famously didn't win a single Super Bowl in his 30s. He went to he got to the finals twice. He once led New England to an almost undefeated season and lost a final to Eli Manning famously in 2012. He also lost to... Then he came back and won his first Super Bowl in his 40s against Atlanta, and lost to the Philadelphia Eagles, and then won again against the LA Rams, and then obviously at 45 years old, he miraculously won another one against Patrick Mahomes. That's pretty impressive, list of skins he's got on his trophy cabinet.
Yeah, well, Tom Brady,
Yeah, a bunch of really, really great players, and Eli Manning and Nick Foles. Eli Manning is a borderline Hall of Fame player. Nick Foles is, man, you beat Brady, man. They built a statue for you in Philadelphia, but that's about it. Yeah, though that was an incredible Super Bowl as well.
Yeah.
The Chiefs are officially a dynasty. I actually kind of predicted at the end of last season that the first overreaction we're going to have the Monday after the Chiefs win the Super Bowl is the Chiefs are going to do the three-peat. Is there anything stopping them? The first team to do a three-peat in the Super Bowl era.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. They're looking really good, and their actual regular season wasn't the best either, and they still pulled out all the stops in the postseason, right?
Let's be honest, they had a very poor regular season. At one point, it looked like they might not have qualified.
Yeah.
If Justin Herbert had not gotten injured, the AFC West might have been more competitive. The Chiefs actually lost to the Broncos, a team that conceded 70 points. That's never a good sign, but their defense was keeping them in the game. Patrick Mahomes was not having the best year, and then the playoffs came along, and Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce just went, "Yep, remember, we're really good at this."
Yeah. Exactly.
And suddenly all their wide receivers who couldn't catch all season were suddenly catching everything.
They're like, "Oh, that's right. Football game we play. We catch a ball."
It looked very likely that once they beat the one seed Ravens in the AFL AFC conference game, it almost felt like they were destined to win. The 49ers had an incredible game to beat the Lions, and who also made their first conference championship game since the 90s, I want to say.
Something like that? Yeah.
Something like that. And yeah, it's tough for those guys. Like the 49ers, you know, it looked like they would go back-to-back to the playoffs when they went to the Super Bowl in 2020. But, you know, you never know when you'll get your next opportunity.
Exactly.
And they couldn't come back till 4 years later, and even then, they still couldn't make it to the big dance. So I think one of those things in the NFL, you got to take your chance when you get it, especially in a year Patrick Mahomes is not playing well.
Yeah, exactly.
Unquote, not playing well.
Yeah, exactly. And the quotes. But yeah, you're right. Like the NFL itself is a very difficult league, and just making it to the Super Bowl is an achievement, and when you're there, you've got to make the best out of it. And I'm sure the 49ers, I mean, they did a really good job. They did their best, but they're probably kicking themselves a little bit. They probably had the best of chances.
Yeah.
Probably should have done better than what they did. Like, I just feel like they played well for maybe slightly more than 3/4 of a game, and it was like maybe 1 quarter, and then that was like a bad decision. They didn't understand overtime rules. Made a bad decision choosing to receive first.
I think that's a bit like, I don't know. Like I think whichever way you go, whether you go first or second, you know you need to get 7 points because Patrick Mahomes is going to get 7 points. That's just how the game will go.
Yeah, going second has the benefit of just knowing what you've stopped the other team doing. So.
But you can also put pressure on the other team if you get if you manage to score a touchdown. Their defense was absolutely shattered. They needed to get a bit of a breather before they came back out again.
Yeah, I suppose.
I can understand the decision making. Like, you know, as the game progresses, defenses get more and more tired. This is why fourth quarters mean everything in the sport, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's just that they have come out and said, "Oh, look, we misunderstood the rule. They messed up. They thought it was what it was. So they didn't know. So they could have possibly gone, if they'd known the rule, they might still have gone first, and then they would have gone for the touchdown opposed to the 3 point. But yeah, one of those things.
Going for it on fourth down, I mean, it's a rough decision because now when you go second, you know that you have to go for it on fourth down because a field goal is not doing anything for you.
That's what they say. Going second's got the benefit. You know what you're doing. It's all out in front of you. It's like batting second, T20, right? You know what you're chasing. You can plan it out.
Absolutely. Yeah, I definitely understand that part, but also, like, you know, you got to play to the conditions of the match state. If your defense is absolutely out of breath and like losing their composure, you need to give them a break and let them take a bit of time to get back into it. I mean, either way, Patrick Mahomes would have won.
Yeah, there is that as well. I mean, he is the playoff king, and he's the come from behind king as well, really. Like, having to drive his team forward in the overtime, needs the touchdown to win. Who else is going to make that happen? Patrick Mahomes.
Since the Chiefs with the Patrick Mahomes era has every Super Bowl they've gone behind by 10 points. Yeah. And he's won 3 of them.
Yeah. Yeah, he could chase a game. That's what he can.
Yeah. Like, we have to obviously give credit to their defense always comes to ball when it comes to the playoffs as well. The Chiefs, traditionally, they have a sneaky good defense that becomes good during the playoffs, and it's like mediocre throughout the season, but whereas this season was the opposite. The offense was like mediocre, and the defense was good all season, and really good during the playoffs, especially in that game against the Ravens. I do wonder something like all through, other than the Buffalo Bills, who actually challenged the Chiefs, in their playoff game.
Yeah.
I don't know why both the Ravens and the San Francisco 49ers did not run the ball more, especially with CMC.
Yeah.
Because that was the one thing their defense was not doing well in. Like in that third quarter when they were outscored 9-0, that's like they only ran the ball 6 times. I feel like that's a mistake.
Yeah. I mean, the Bills game especially, that was, lots of running in that, lots of rushing, and it was really finding them out. I mean, the Chiefs were able to, they sort of could account for it. Allen and Cook.
Yeah.
So they would run and it would work for a bit, and then that option down, and they would have to rethink. But they always seem to settle down to a bit of passing and then go back to the rush. And it worked. So.
The Bills, Josh Allen aside, are not a good rushing team.
Yeah.
Like, Josh Allen's really good, but he's not a running back, and everybody knows that's where most of their running's coming from. So, he gets great numbers, despite the fact that everybody knows it's coming from him. Shows how good he is, but they don't have anyone to back him up.
Yeah, well, so we got I think it's a new guy, Cook. He made 61 rushing yards in that game. So that was what helped a bit there, was it just gave that other option. And Ty Johnson did 40, which is reasonable. Average 5.7. Whilst Allen's 72, averaging 12 carries.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Whereas
Allen's still...
the Ravens, like in that AFC Championship game, the Ravens are like the best rushing team in the league, and they have been for the past 5 years. And, they just have Lamar Jackson with 54 rushing yards as their top and 20 rushing yards from Gus Edwards. Like, they only had 8 carries outside of Lamar rushing. And, all their rushers had incredible seasons. So it's like mind-boggling. But then again, I guess this happens when you play against the Chiefs. People kind of getting to the head of the coaches as well, what they're calling. It affects it. But congrats to the Chiefs. Commiserations to the 49ers. But I think we kind of expected something like this at the beginning of the season. This would be the outcome.
Yeah.
I think let us do a bit of a report card on every team. What do we think? We'll go through the AFC East. Bills. What are you giving them?
I mean, I'd probably give them a pretty good rating. I mean, it started poorish, but second half of the regular season popped up. They looked really good in the postseason. The same things happened. Looks good in the postseason until we come up against Mahomes, and then Allen can't seem to get it over Mahomes. One of those things in the postseason. Came really close to it this time. It looking good. Just snatched field goal away, and that was that. But I'd still give them a decent grade. So.
I mean, like the way I look at it, Bills, they want to win the Super Bowl. This is their win now. Otherwise, they're kind of wasting Josh Allen's career.
Yeah.
I think they had as good a time as any this season to go and exercise their demons. Like, they came very close to beating the Chiefs.
Yeah.
B+.
Yeah, I
think that's a fair grade.
Yeah, B+ was where I was sitting. I have been wavering between A- and B+. You're right. It's sort of, I feel like the first half of the season was poor. Second half of the season was very much better, but yeah, maybe it's B+. Didn't beat the Chiefs. Wasted another year of Josh Allen. So.
And there are some problems with this Bills team. Like, they're so over-reliant on Josh Allen, I think. And that hasn't changed. So there's a lot to think about in the offseason. Like, Josh Allen, hides a lot of cracks in that team. So they need to look at a lot of that. Well, under them, we got the Dolphins. They also made the playoffs. Same record as the Bills, 11-6.
Yeah.
I think B- for them. They rightly thought they should, they could have won that AFC East.
Yeah, they probably should have
gotten
really.
the 1 seed. Yeah, gotten the 1 seed and probably should have played against the Browns or the Steelers in their game. They would have probably made it to the divisional round, but instead they went to Kansas City where it was like negative 30 degrees and they lost.
Yeah.
So yeah, but overall I think the team's there. There's good players. I don't know if Tua's the guy, but I can't fault the thing. They've basically performed pretty much as expected. B- because of how it ended disappointingly.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I was going to say, I agree with I agree if you're rating the Dolphins B-. They're almost the inverse of the Bills. Had a reasonable start, seemed to fade at the end, and then, once again hit the Chiefs and faltered.
Then the after that we get the New York Jets. Obviously their season was never going to be good after Aaron Rodgers got injured after 5 snaps.
Yeah.
A break for them, but they played really, really well. Part of me wants to give them a passing grade, but I can't because they had Joe Flacco in their team last year, and they didn't sign him on. And the Browns made it to the playoffs, and they didn't because the Browns signed Flacco.
Yeah.
Like, there's basically like the Flacco sans could have happened for the Jets. It didn't, and it would have been, he's already won a Super Bowl. He's not. He's here to do well for a team. He doesn't expect to be a starter next season or anything like that.
Yeah.
So, and they could have had all those hilarious highlights when Joe was falling asleep on the sideline because it was past his bedtime. But then he came out, but then he went on and threw for 300 plus yards. Can't argue if Grandpa can do that. No complaints, right?
Exactly.
The Jets, I don't know. It's disappointing that they made so many terrible decisions like that. After Aaron Rodgers got injured, I think D-.
Yeah, I think you have to give them a D-. I mean, if you're rating their entire season, you're looking at it from the start of the season. And
I gave them a C-. They just passed because we can't you can't expect them to do much better than what they did.
I know. This is the thing I was going to say. You look at it from the start of the season, before the season starts. This is disappointment. This is a fail for the Jets. I mean, it is unlucky. You get a star quarterback in, and he falls over the season after 5 snaps. Can't.
Yeah.
And for that's just getting bad luck. But where they ended up compared to where they should have or would have realistically been expecting, it's poor. If you take it from after that 5th snap onwards, it's a C, C-, C+, C. They've passed. They did what they could do given the circumstances.
Yeah.
That's I'm sort of a bit split on them. It's sort of a D+, maybe D+ is the right thing. With look at it for the whole season, you're disappointing. But yeah, it's outside the control, but it's just look at it from after Aaron Rodgers getting injured onwards. Yeah, sure, that's a pass. I'm going to average it out as a D+.
D+.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Next, we have the New England Patriots. Okay, they ended the season by firing their the greatest coach of all time because of how badly they've been doing. Yeah. D for the Patriots. Nothing more to say.
No, I think
a very bad season.
Yeah.
But at least they might get Caleb or Drake May next season.
Oh, there we go.
Because I think obviously they're going to draft a quarterback. I mean, why wouldn't you? But yeah. I mean, you're in their situation.
Yeah, exactly.
And they'll rebuild. Next up, Kansas City Chiefs. Well, A+. They won the Super Bowl. Can't complain.
Exactly.
The Las Vegas Raiders, a team fires their coach and then almost breaks even, almost got to 500.
Yeah.
can't complain. But you fired your coach for a reason, so C-.
Yeah.
There.
And I give it that.
Denver Broncos, they did drop a 70 burger. They got a 70 burger dropped on them by the Miami Dolphins, but they still managed 8 wins. 8-9, once again, almost 500. But they had the same coach, and they have Russell Wilson, somebody who's probably going to go to the Hall of Fame as their quarterback, and they have probably a Hall of Fame coach, and they did so badly.
Yeah.
So I can't give them the same grade as the Raiders. I think that's a D+.
I'd agree with that. Same reasons.
Chargers gonna Charger. They fired their coach at the end of the season. Obviously, Justin Herbert gets injured. Bad season for them all around. A season they'd rather forget, but on the field performance, not too bad. I think still a D+, though, for them.
I'd say, on the plus side for them, they did better than the Patriots. Yeah.
Yeah, and they don't need a quarterback, so it's okay. They weren't tanking.
Yeah.
We have. Next we have the AFC North, the toughest division in the league. Almost had all of the teams qualify for the playoffs at one point. If Joe Burrow didn't get injured, they may have been able to do so. Jake Browning almost got them through. Incredible backup play. But we'll start from the top. Ravens, obviously number 1 seed, new coach, new defensive coordinator, had the best defense in the league in the regular season, and their quarterback's MVP, so A+, can't argue with that.
No, exactly. They say they only maybe knock half a grade off down to A for the poor performance against the Chiefs in the
playoffs.
Yeah.
But I think if you make the conference championship game, you're an A+ team. You're a good team, one of the good teams in the league.
I'm not saying they're not, but they're clearly one of the best teams. I'm just wondering if they get slight markdown
to me, like, conference game means you're in the A. To get an A+, you have to have like a great performance from your players, and they've got the MVP and the best performing defense in the league. So.
Fair enough.
You can't just lose one game. That happens. It just so happens to be the championship game.
Yeah.
And they were the 1 seed.
We'll give it to them. We'll give them the A+. It's just that was a disappointing end, and they perhaps should have done better. But.
Look, there's currently 2 quarterbacks who are probably now bona fide Hall of Famers. There's Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson, because he's won 2 MVPs. And every quarterback that's won 2 every player that's won 2 MVPs is in the Hall of Fame.
All right, there we go.
So there's 2. Their quarterback joined the Hall of Fame. Patrick Mahomes joined last season because he'd won like 2 MVPs and won 2 Super Bowls. But there's another guy. He's the only guy that comes close to competing with Patrick. Pretty much in the league, like, other than Joe Burrow, but unfortunately Joe Burrow's been injured this season. Cleveland Browns, once again, their $240 million quarterback was injured, but you know what they did? They got Joe Flacco, and he came in and got them into the playoffs. Really, really good performance from this team. Imagine if they had a good quarterback all season, how good would they be? Like, one of the teams that, like, the AFC North played against the AFC West. All 4, other than the Steelers, the Browns, Ravens, and Bengals all beat the 49ers. That tells you how strong the AFC North are. Like, they basically all beat the NFC's representative to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So, I think the Cleveland Browns can't argue with that. A for me. Sure, they lost to the Bills in the sorry, not the Bills. They lost to
the Texans.
The Texans in the playoffs, but the Texans are a good team. So and at home, so CJ Stroud showed that he belongs at this level, and he beat the Browns. The Steelers, once again, they're over 500. They've made the playoffs. I can't give them anything lower than a B minus, and I'm inclined to give them a B, given how badly they were going at some points. The coaching was incredible. I know Steelers Nation hate hearing how much other fans talk about how good they are. The Steelers are one of those franchises. They want to win the Super Bowl every year.
Yeah.
But they're nowhere close. There is a lot of stuff that's wrong with the team. But I can't. We're grading on the on-field product, not what happens behind the scenes, and their on-field performance. So yeah, B for me.
B is fine for me.
I think Bengals are also a B.
Yeah.
They have a few good scalps this season. Joe Burrow got injured, and Jake Browning wasn't going to be able to continue his run of form forever.
Maybe B minus, just to shave a grade off for not making playoffs. I know they're in the AFC North, and that makes
B
it hard.
minus, because I don't think they have over 500, so we can't give them a C. I think they're a team, and they're only just behind the Steelers, and not making the playoffs.
Yeah.
Then we have the Texans. I think they're ahead of schedule. They won a playoff game, and this team came last year.
Yeah.
Literally. So, A, maybe A+.
Yeah, definitely an A. I'd say probably A+. Given where they were last year.
Yeah.
And they won 2 playoffs till they hit the Ravens, so...
Yeah, and they were holding on against the Ravens in the first half till the Ravens basically piled it on. Well, Lamar Jackson piled it on in the second half to win that game. Then following on the Jaguars. This is a team some people thought would make the Super Bowl. They had a really good season last year, and that's just... this seems to be the thing. Trevor Lawrence has an up year and a down year. That seems to be his MO, and he is going to have a tough time. The AFC South is going to become a killer conference because obviously the Jaguars have Trevor Lawrence and some good players. The Colts have Anthony Richardson, who till he got injured looked like the real deal and had a really good backup in Gardner Minshew to get them to 9 wins. And then obviously the Tennessee Titans finished last, but Will Levis looks like a decent QB. I mean, they've changed their coaching staff. I don't know why. I think Mike Vrabel's a really good coach, but I expect the Titans are going to do really well next season. And they're building a new stadium, so they're going to probably host the Super Bowl in a few years. So they probably want to improve that team.
Yeah.
But I think Jaguars, I'm going to give them a B minus. The Colts a B plus, and the Titans, I think we give them a C minus.
Yep, I'm happy with that. Can't say anything really to argue too much with your analysis there.
Cool. Next up, we go to the NFC, starting with the Division of Champions, the NFC East, the Dallas Cowboys, America's team. Yeah. They finished ahead of the Philadelphia Eagles, who they'll be happy about. Realistically, sure, they've got a 12-5 record, at least a B plus there, because the regular season was really, really good. But let's face it, they only had 1 win against a team with a record above 500. Other than and they split their games with Philadelphia. They were absolutely disappointing in the playoffs. Got thrashed by the Packers.
Yeah.
So I can't give them more than a B plus. Disappointing given how good their team is. Yeah. That they just always seem to choke. Because I think whatever you say about a team like the Ravens, it's not a choke when you lose to Patrick Mahomes by 1 score.
No, exactly.
You can't say San Francisco choked. You lost to Patrick Mahomes by 1 score. It happens.
But yeah.
So whereas like the Cowboys in their playoff games just did not look like they were gonna win. Like Jordan Love basically destroyed them. As ditto with the Eagles, they got 11 wins. They made the playoffs. Just give them a B. They had a very disappointing end to the season. I mean, it's bad when you make the playoffs and your coach is on the. You were at the Super Bowl last year and your coach is on the hot seat. That's how badly they played in the last 5 weeks of the season. They finished basically 5-0 from memory.
Possibly.
They even lost to the frickin' Giants.
No, they beat the Giants in the last weeks. They might have lost to them. Yeah. 33-24. Giants.
No, in week 18 the Giants were 27-10.
Oh no, no, they played them twice. Yeah, no, 27-10.
Yeah.
There was the one before that, sorry. So, but it was within the 5 weeks. So they won the last 5 weeks.
A really bad team once and lost to them again.
Yeah.
And they lost to Baker Mayfield in the wild card round. Obviously, Baker Mayfield having a bit of a renaissance in his own career.
Yeah.
Hope that goes well for him, as he's one of my favorite players. But yeah, Eagles B, maybe B minus because how badly it ended. Yeah, B minus, I think.
I think that's or as you say, that the end of the season just fell apart for them. So B minus.
Next up, New York Giants. This team won a playoff game last season, and they only managed to win 6 games this season. Obviously, their quarterback getting injured is a bad sign, but he wasn't lighting up the league before he got injured, so yeah, that's not looking good for the G-men. They didn't even get a good draft pick out of it, so
yeah.
I guess we give them a D+.
Yeah. I think you're right there.
The Commanders are the second worst team in the league, so I think D-. We can just move on.
Yeah, exactly.
They're obviously getting a quarterback, so yeah, fun times for them.
Yeah.
And next up, we have the NFC West team. A very, very competitive conference. San Francisco 49ers, 12-5. I said 3 of those losses came from the AFC North, who piled on the NFC West in their games. Actually, a really good season for the 49ers. What am I going to say? They went to the Super Bowl. They played really well. They're clearly the best team in the NFC, and they have the best coach in the NFC. And quite frankly, unless something disastrous happens, they should be back in the Super Bowl next year. So A+ for me.
Yeah, no, I think exactly. Make it all the way to the Super Bowl. They only lose 5 games, and the Super Bowl game is relatively competitive. Good in it as well. A+. 49ers is they be very surprised that they're not back at the Super Bowl next year or close. I mean, I don't really see them losing somewhere in there, but the NFL, right? So especially once you get to the playoffs, it just takes one bad game or one thing to go not your way, and then it's over. So, but yeah, I would expect them to be serious contenders.
Yeah, pretty much. Then we have the LA Rams, the team that last season had a real Super Bowl hangover. They basically had no picks because they used them all to win a Super Bowl. And everybody thought that they'd be taking a few seasons to rebuild and accumulate, but no, they just drafted really, really good players with their low draft picks. And that's I feel like this is something that other teams could learn from both the 49ers and the LA Rams, because the 49ers just always find really, really good staff. They have a really good hiring process, and everybody keeps giving them draft picks because they end up hiring staff members from the 49ers.
Yeah.
There's 2 coaches from the 49ers teams that made it to the who were coaches at the 49ers who made it to the playoffs this season. Tells you what you need to know. And the 49ers are a team that actually use the Rooney Rule as it's expected. They give everybody a proper everybody they do hire. They do interview coaches from minorities, and they give them a proper go. They don't just do it for the process.
All right,
and
yeah.
if they and they actually bring them into their organization, and then everybody else suddenly needs to hire somebody on the Rooney Rule, needs to interview somebody in the Rooney Rule, and they go like, "Wait, you're actually really impressive, like, and you've developed as a coach under the Cal Shanahan." So, I think 49ers, and every time you poach somebody's stuff, you have to give them 2 second-round picks. So, the 49ers always have good drafts because they have so many picks. And the LA Rams, they use up their draft picks, but when they're in their lower end, they get people like Puka Nacua, like 7th-round draft pick, and he's basically almost got the Triple Crown in his debut season. Like, they found another Cooper Kupp. Like, how unfair is that?
That is crazy, yeah.
They've still got Stafford. If he doesn't retire, then look, I would not be surprised if the Rams took like a QB later rounds in the draft because they have some draft capital. Let him learn under Stafford, who's a really, really good QB.
Yeah,
I think LA Rams once again showed how you can do like another completely different strategy where they don't. They do also have their coaches get poached by other teams, but they use the picks to win now, get the right guys in. They're not afraid, and because they just go, with our low draft picks, we'll pick the best player, and we'll train them up.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's like a really good attitude. I feel like a lot of NFL teams with their lower draft picks just go, "Yeah, we'll see if it works out. Yeah, you got to show us you're worth it."
Yeah. Well, the Rams are.
Yeah.
The Rams are actually researching those lower draft picks and going, "Well, this guy has a little bit of which one has actual potential. Might not have it right now, but we'll train him." It's a couple of year project.
We'll actually talk to them and be like, "Hey, let's see how they interview, how they talk, and
actually putting the effort in and research and working out what's going on, as opposed to just rolling a dice and going, it's a low draft."
Yeah, I mean, both these teams are an A. I think the 49ers are an A+. The Rams are clearly an A. They're like they've literally rebuilt in a season. And they're back to being like a favorite. Like, of the teams in the NFC, the only one I think that genuinely can compete with the 49ers next season is the LA Rams. Like, the NFC West is going to be lit next season. Arguably the 2 best young coaches in the league play in as well. Next, we have the Seattle Seahawks team that made the playoffs last season, almost made the playoffs this season, just unfortunately missing out to the... Like, we all thought 9 wins would be enough in the NFC. It just turned out to not... the Packers just ended up with the head-to-head. Incredible. I think a disappointing season overall. They've still got Geno on the books. I wouldn't be surprised if the Seahawks, once again, drafted like a QB 2nd or 3rd round. Maybe get him to train under Geno to get him ready for the league.
Yeah.
They had a window because Geno's contract isn't that high. He's a middle class in terms of income, salary quarterback. Which is so you've got a bit of a window with him, and he played well. I don't think Geno you can blame for the Seahawks' problems. Yes, he threw a bunch of interceptions, but all of those came when they were behind. So that's fine. Like, you're supposed to go for it when you're behind. And
you're trying to push. Yeah, you're pushing the envelope there. So we're behind. We need to make something happen. Forcing the issue. That didn't work. We were behind anyway.
Yeah, exactly. I think the Seahawks, though, that Pete Carroll's retiring. It's a new thing, and he didn't have the best, swan song season. I think that'll make the fans a bit disappointed. So I think C+ for the Seahawks.
Yeah, we'll go C+. They didn't make the playoffs, so we'll see.
But over 500 though, so we can't give them a failing grade.
No, they're still pretty good.
Arizona Cardinal, this team are going to finish 4th. The only reason they're probably not drafting a QB is that Kyler Murray balled out in his last 3 games for the Cardinals. And like when he came back after mid-season, that's the only good thing from the team. Looked good when he played.
Nice.
So they've got a high draft pick. We'll see if they draft Marvin Harrison Jr., who's the best wide receiver in college football at the moment, probably the best player in college football.
All right, yep.
At the moment, and it could be like a Jamar Chase situation, just comes in and like balls out.
Yeah.
Or Tyler. I don't know, but I think they're a top 5 draft pick, so you got to give them a D at least.
Yeah.
I think not a D minus because Kyler gave them some hope at the end, but D for them.
D. Yeah, when you're talking about the benefits of this season being the fact, hey, at least they get a good draft next season. This season was poor.
Yeah, but they started with their backup QB, so we knew they were going to have a poor season, so that's one of the things.
Yeah.
But it's still a fail.
Still a poor season. I hope you're expecting a poor season. That doesn't stop it not being a poor season.
Yeah. NFC North, the Detroit Lions obviously made it to the NFC Championship game. Unlucky. Narrow loss to the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah.
No shame in losing to a great team like the 49ers. We're stacked all around. They did make some errors in their regular season, especially in their game against Dallas, which they should have won. But getting a bad call from a ref, you need to recover from that emotionally, especially if you're the coach.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, Dan Campbell is a good coach because he's emotional. So occasionally it'll cut. It's a katana without a hilt. Every now and then you'll cut your hand.
Yeah.
But there's a reason you use the sword because it's really sharp.
Yeah.
I think. The Detroit Lions, they've made the first NFC Championship game for Detroit in 30 plus years. Eminem came to their stadium 3 times.
Yeah.
Everything's come in time for them, and they still have a really, really good team. So I think at least an A for the Lions.
At least. I mean,
at least. Given how bad the Lions have been in recent, they've gone back-to-back seasons without winning a game.
I'd almost, exactly.
I think A+. Their fans are gonna be happy. You can't, the fans can't complain at all about this team.
No, I'd say I was going to give them an A+ because they're basically second equal in terms of record for the entire NFL. Only the Ravens did better than them. I mean, they were equal with the Cowboys and the 49ers. Their record still one of the best. They made it all the way through to the conference final. So you're saying lost to the 49ers, and it wasn't like that was a blowout either. 34-31. Yes. That's close. They pushed them. So A+, I think. They're another one of the teams that very well this season. Unlucky. I think they show that, this league is really competitive and you need to have the chips go your way.
And also their fans gave a standing ovation to Matt Stafford when he came back to play for the Rams in the playoffs. You gotta love that.
Yeah. That's great.
Next up, the Green Bay Packers. Yeah? 3rd Hall of Fame QB drafted by the Packers in a row. So they got, obviously they famously drafted Aaron Rodgers while Brett Favre was still playing for them, made him sit for 3 years, and then in his first season he started balling.
Yeah.
Took them to the playoffs. And famously, 3 years ago, they drafted Jordan Love. He's been sitting on the bench for 3 seasons behind Aaron Rodgers. And Aaron, Hall of Fame QB leaves, and Jordan Love takes him to the playoffs immediately. And after his shaky start in the first few games, he just looked like he belonged there. He looked at some points he looked like he was bored that the defense was giving him such a basic scheme to play around. Like, the Packers' defense was expected to be really, really good, and they were kind of okay, but their offense was expected to be not at all good, but they balled later half of the season.
Yes.
Look, they've rebuilt in less than a season after losing a Hall of Fame QB.
I know, it's crazy.
You gotta give them an A. Can't complain at all.
No, can't complain. Definitely an A.
Next up, we have the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah.
They had Kirk Cousins. They looked like they were going to make the playoffs until he got injured, unfortunately, and they got in. And they got in. Their backup managed to come in and play a few games where he played really, really well. Josh Dobbs, who was balling kind of for the Cardinals, and then he got traded to the Vikings, and he won a game, and then he lost 3 in a row, and then they benched him. And the Vikings end up with the same record as the Chicago Bears, a team that at one point had the worst record in the league. I think both the Vikings and the Bears, D. Just leave it at that. Both have had disappointing seasons. The only saving grace for the Bears is they weren't the worst team in the league. They have the 6th round draft pick, I believe, with their record. And they have the 1st round pick because of the Panthers, who came last. Both these teams have not had a good season. There's an issue for Minnesota. Do they pay Kirk Cousins again and try and go again with this team, which can win, and Kirk can lead them to the playoffs? And Chicago Bears, do they get a new quarterback, or do they really get a new quarterback?
Yeah.
But Caleb has already said that he will not play for the Bears. So,
right.
Famously, we've had John Elway, who literally cried when he got drafted by the Indianapolis Colts and said he would not play for them, so they had to trade him to the Broncos, where he won 2 Super Bowls. And Eli Manning refused to play for the Chargers, and they had to trade him in for Phillip Rivers, who was a really good quarterback, and Eli Manning ended up winning 2 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
So, they both made good decisions by whinging about where they ended up.
Yeah.
Like, don't go to a bad team, just cry and say no.
Yeah. Throw your toys out of the cot, stamp your feet, and say no.
And you know what happens? You become a Hall of Fame QB like John Elway, you're part of the GOAT debate, or you become like a two-time Super Bowl winner like Eli Manning.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Teaching the kids the best lesson.
Yep. Next up, we have the NFC South. Now, I gotta commend the Bucks. They basically had lost the best player to ever play the game last season, who retired, and they still had to pay him. So he had this salary, and they went, you know what? We're not gonna do anything. We're just gonna sit and chill. We're not gonna tank. We're not gonna try to make the playoffs. We'll do a bunch of things in our preseason, and they ended up signing Baker Mayfield to go join their team. Trask is still their backup. They kept Mike Evans, and they didn't they didn't trade anybody for draft picks. They didn't sign too many people in free agency. They just drafted, and they were like, let's just hold on, let's just chill. Because we might not need to get that good a record to make the playoffs in this division, because it doesn't look that strong. And they were right.
They were very right.
What? They were rewarded. Sometimes just holding and staying the course, just, not making a move for the sake of making a move is the right move.
Yeah. Who would think sometimes just holding back and not running around like a headless chicken, thinking the sky is falling, and just being like, we're just going to chill. Don't worry about it. It's fine. And it all worked out.
And I believe they're going to end up with the highest cap space next season, so they can get some free agents. They've got a bunch of draft picks next season.
Yeah.
So the Buccaneers, their future looks really good. If they do sign Baker to like a middle of the road QB contract,
Yeah.
then yeah, they will be. I think they'll be competing next season again for the NFC South. It still doesn't look like it's going to be a super strong division because every team's sort of middle of the road, other than the Panthers, who don't have their draft pick. So you know they're not going to be good next season. The Saints just are always the Saints. They never tank, and they're always going for it, and they somehow always have extra money on their credit card to, like, you know, sign on players and renegotiate contracts. You just don't know how it works. And then you've got the Falcons, who had to fire their coach and took in a new one, and so we don't know what they're going to be. They could be really, really good, or they could be absolutely terrible. Some people were expecting the Atlanta Falcons to do better this season, but you know, the Atlanta Falcons' most disappointing thing is they got 7 wins, so they're not even good enough to get draft like one of the elite QBs that are going to be in this draft. Like, it's almost the worst of both worlds. The Buccaneers and the Saints, like. Buccaneers, obviously, I have to give them at least a B. They made the playoffs. They won a playoff game, so B+.
B+, yeah. They won a playoff game, 500 plus. B+.
And everybody was expecting them to, like, tank-ish this season.
Yeah.
Because they had no money to sign free agents and hardly any draft picks, but... You know, their tank-ish season ended up with them making the playoffs. Can't argue with that, and they will actually be able to build their team next season.
Exactly.
And the Saints, they're gonna Saints. We'll see how it plays out. But you know, once again, they're above 500. They almost made the playoffs, so we gotta give them at least a C+.
Yeah.
Falcons D+, but you know, they're not happy, and the Panthers are the worst team in the league, so you know, a very, very easy D-.
Yeah, D-. For them.
And also, they don't even have their draft pick, so it's even worse.
Yeah, D- to the power of 118. That was their record. Or you can do it D- to the power of 416, which is how many points were. I suppose, to be fair to them, 416 I don't think is the worst. No, it's not the worst in the league, so there's a silver lining.
There's been teams that have lost 16-0, but no team's lost 17-0 and 17 yet, since we started having 17-game seasons. But yeah, next year the Panthers might do it.
Yeah.
They just might do it.
I believe in them.
I too believe in them.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see after the draft how everybody does. And I think I don't think we want to change any grades. We're happy with how we graded everyone.
Yeah. No.
Sounds good. Well, that was our NFL season review. I hope you all enjoyed that. Thank you very much, and look forward to hearing from you next time.
Catch you next time.
Well, that is the end. Thanks for listening all the way through.
If you liked what you heard, we have even more. NineSixFourTwo Discord and a Buy Me a Coffee.
Pretty sure it's Buy Me a Beer.
Oh yeah, buy me a beer on buymeacoffee.com.
In both these places, you can talk to us, and we may even listen, especially if you do buy a said beer or coffee. I might still be confused.
Yes, we're easily bribed. All links are in the show notes below.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
This is on YouTube.